All right, this is great news. The date has been set. The Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, he anticipates the release of his all-important report. This has gone on 18 months. The date is set for next Thursday, 1 week from tonight, June the 14th. Now, for weeks, we have been predicting that these findings would, in fact, be buried and released when all eyes would be fixed on the president's historic meetings in Singapore. Sadly, I think my prediction was somewhat right, and it's only 2 days after this big summit takes place, and then, of course, this will be released. Now, what is the Justice Department potentially redacted or changed, because they've had it for over 2 weeks now? Did they alter any language? How will the American people, will they get the truth in all of this? Will they be prevented from seeing the truth? In other words, are we really going to get unfettered contents of Inspector General Horowitz's report? Now, make no mistake, next Thursday, right here on Hannity, we will be analyzing that forthcoming report, page by page, on what will be one of the most consequential days in modern history. That's 2 days, of course, after the summit. Sorry, I am suspicious, and I hopefully will stand corrected next week. Now, we do have one good development to report tonight. The Inspector General, Horowitz, is now set to testify before the Senate the Monday following the Thursday release. And, of course, all of this on the heels of what is now a nonstop effort that we have seen by Congress, by the Department of Justice to Congress, to obstruct Congress from doing its constitutional duty, and that is oversight in their investigations. And according to Senator Grassley's office, the DOJ is now refusing to make documents and at least one witness available for their oversight into the FBI's ongoing General Flynn investigation. And add to this the DOJ's constant slow walking of those documents to all the House committees, the House Intelligence Committee, the Oversight Committees. Sarah Carter will tell you all about a huge fight that took place earlier today and how the DOJ has reneged this morning on a previous commitment to supply documents that are related to the Russia investigation. The big battle, it ended up the Department of Justice now adding unprecedented new restrictions on how it plans to brief members of Congress. We're going to have more on this very important story. What we need is, of course, you, the American people, to be able to see it for yourself. And yesterday, we reported on how the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, arrogantly rebuffed Senator Lindsey Graham in his letter demanding to know why the head of the Mueller investigation has not recused himself, given his numerous conflicts of interest, including his key role in that decision to fire James Comey. He's witness number one in that case. And, of course, he was the person that signed off on the third subsequent renewal application as it relates to the FISA warrant, that, of course, spying on a Trump campaign associate. Senator Graham is responding. Let's take a look.
Were you satisfied with the response from the Justice Department to your inquiry about whether Rod Rosenstein should be recused?
No.
Why? You got a response?
Well, you talked about a counterintelligence investigation. I get that. The question is the obstruction of justice. Is there going to be a serious look at whether or not the president obstructed justice by firing Comey? I don't know how you can have that discussion without calling him as a witness because of the memo he wrote. He's a fine guy. I got nothing against him. I think he's doing a good job. I understand why Jeff Sessions can't do this. I'm really curious as to how Rosenstein could be involved in overseeing an investigation if he's going to be a witness.
We'll have a lot more on this all throughout the show tonight, but first we have another extremely bit of important news to cover. First and foremost, the president's historic impending trip to Singapore, just days away from holding these talks with the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, and they are going to talk about the complete and total denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. All of that is on the line. Earlier today, the president gave a preview of this upcoming trip. Here's what he had to say.
I hope the upcoming meeting in Singapore represents the beginning of a bright new future for North Korea, and indeed a bright new future for the world. The denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula would usher in a new era of prosperity, security, and peace for all Koreans, North and South, and for people everywhere. We could absolutely sign an agreement. We're looking at it. We're talking about it with them. We're talking about it with a lot of other people. But that could happen. But that's really the beginning. Sounds a little bit strange, but that's probably the easy part. The hard part remains after that. Maximum pressure is absolutely in effect. We don't use the term anymore because we're going into a friendly negotiation. Perhaps after that negotiation, I will be using it again. You'll know how well we do in the negotiation. If you hear me saying we're going to use maximum pressure, you'll know the negotiation did not do well.
If the summit does go well, will you be inviting North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to the United States?
Well, the answer is yes to the second part of your question, but certainly if it goes well. And I think it would be well received. I think he would look at it very favorably, so I think that could happen. All I can say is I am totally prepared to walk away. I did it once before. You have to be able to walk away. I really believe that we have the potential to do something incredible for the world, and it's my honor to be involved.
And the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, who's played a very important role in North Korea in these discussions and the lead up to all of this, he weighed in on these upcoming talks. Let's take a look.
The fact that our two leaders are coming to the table shows that the two sides are very serious. The diplomatic model used to date is different from past efforts. Our efforts give us hope that we can find real success where past efforts have fallen short. President Trump is hopeful, but he's also going into the summit with his eyes wide open. We've seen how many inadequate agreements have been struck in the past, and you can be sure that President Trump will not stand for a bad deal.
Here we are, only days away from diplomatic progress the former President Obama, frankly, only dreamed of. The majority of Americans, how are they responding? Overwhelmingly now supporting the president's upcoming summit. Now, all of this after the mainstream media doubted, they were fear-mongering, talks of nuclear war, and in a sad way, I think many, because they don't like President Trump and they want the Democrats to win, actually even rooting against the president's success here. That's sad for the country. Take a look.
The idea of a nuclear showdown with North Korea keeps you up at night? I would recommend deleting your Twitter app.
He is not merely being cavalier with a threat about nuclear war. He's being cavalier in a way that makes him seem demented.
These are the messages from a person who is not well, from a leader who is not fit for office.
President Trump is goading Kim Jong-un to test a nuclear missile again, to prove its reliability, to show him wrong. And fundamentally, I think it comes across as two kindergartners who are jostling each other, except that each has nuclear weapons.
Well, here's
too late after 100,000 Americans die.
after a nuclear holocaust.
Or after 1 million die in Seattle.
And that's where we are. This is not an exaggeration.
Trump's comments about nuclear weapons have experts worried he could literally inadvertently trigger a catastrophe.
Wow. Could trigger a catastrophe. Typical conspiracy theory over there. All right, these nuclear tests so far, let's go through this. No more missiles being fired over Japan. Guam's not being threatened. The region's not being threatened. Oh, we do have 3 American hostages. Thank God they are home. They have been freed. And what you just saw was obviously fake news. We watched Kim Jong-un walk across the DMZ right into the arms of the South Korean president and the dismantling of one of his nuclear test sites. Now, because this is just the first of 3 egregious examples of fake news we're going to highlight tonight. All right, here's number 2. Over there, Conspiracy TV, MSNBC. There you go, Liberal Joe and Mika. They can't help themselves. Now, usually Mika spends her mornings pushing untrue, absurd theories about the president's mental health, with, of course, Joe Scarborough, who's now the liberal. But today, she actually ventured out on her own and floated this insane rumor.
I'll tell you a couple of things. First of all, the hypocrisy is astounding because I know someone who spoke to Donald Trump recently about life in the White House, and Donald Trump's biggest complaint was that he's not allowed to watch porn in the White House. So there you go. There's a little bit of news for you. He's upset that he can't watch porn in the White House.
I bet they have those, 1-900 numbers blocked too, which must be a disappointment.
I'm not really sure, but it just sort of flies in the face of all of this.
Andy Lack, are you proud of that? Is this what is so-called news over there, 30 Rock? This is so insane, honestly, I can't even bother. All right, let's go to our third and almost unbelievable example of fake news. It does involve yours truly. Last night, right here on this program, yesterday on my radio show, I made what are obviously sarcastic remarks highlighting a clear double standard as it relates to our justice system. Equal justice under the law, equal application of our nation's laws. And I was talking about Hillary Clinton and comparing her and what she did to those that have been targeted by Mueller's witch hunt as Mueller is requesting everybody's phones. How interesting. Watch this. Maybe Mueller's witnesses. I don't know. If I advised them to follow Hillary Clinton's lead, delete all your emails, and then acid wash the emails and hard drives on the phones, then take your phones and bash them with a hammer into little itsy-bitsy pieces, use bleach bit, remove the SIM cards, and then take the pieces and hand it over to Robert Mueller and say, Hillary Rodham Clinton, this is equal justice under the law.